There we go. Well, that was quick. I just now press the button and you're already here. Well, welcome to the Minutes with Milo show. Oh, the Minutes with Milo. Oh, there we go. Put that there. Turn him off. All right. So now I know I'm going out on the airwaves. The broadcast is live. Oh, tingling all over. Not really. So welcome everybody to the Minutes with Milo show, Thursday night edition. I don't know. For some reason my stuff's looking a little weird tonight. Let's scoot in here a little bit. Let's get up close and personal. Let's just chit chat for a minute. So, as many of you know, Thursday's my Friday. That's why I have it on Thursdays. Maybe in wintertime we'll go back to Monday, Thursdays. I always say that. But right off the top of the bat, man, I'm just gonna put it out there. Like, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, leave me a comment. Let me know what's going on. You like it, you don't like it, you want some more of it, I don't know. Sing me a song, give me some song lyrics, put it out there. Let's let everybody read it. So tonight's show, of course, is inspired by the most recent election, and the only reason that is because we just had one. And the question comes up, it comes up a lot of time, every presidential election. Why do we have an electoral college? What is that all about? And so I thought, it's perfect. I mean, the election was just a couple of days ago, so it's fresh in everybody's mind. I wanted to know. I've looked up some of the stuff. I'm by no means an expert. I'm just some yahoo that's, on the internet for 45 minutes to an hour every Thursday night, chit-chatting with himself, and sometimes people in the chat come on. And so I don't know that much. So I read a bunch. And we'll look at some stuff here on the internet. It's not really a college. Nobody goes to school there. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out that tonight, how it got the moniker. How it got the title, the name, the nickname, whatever you want to call it, as the Electoral College. And in fact, there's only one place, it's not even one place in the Constitution that says how this is supposed to work, calls the people that does the voting electors. So there's where the electoral part came from. That makes sense. The college part, I have no idea. But we'll look at the gist of it. And then we'll maybe we can dig into it a little bit. There's Gothawk. How's it going? Just in time to start digging into a little bit of this electoral college versus the popular vote. And in a way, if you want to look at it this way, the electoral college is the popular vote, but it is, how would you put that? The bigger the population of a state, the more important their opinion is. I mean, and that's the way, if you want to look at it, that's the way that it works in a nutshell. You got a big state, that opinion, that popular vote is more important in this process than the little state. So basically what it is the big guys pick the president. The big states pick the president. Now why would I say that? Because A big state like California has 55 electoral votes, and we'll go into how that happens. Tennessee, smaller state, only has 11. So let's just say there was a presidential election that involved Tennessee and California. California is going to, if he carries the popular vote, that means if the candidate carries the popular vote in California and gets the majority of those electoral votes, he just has to get a fifth of the electoral votes, more than a fifth of the electoral votes in California to beat Tennessee. That popular vote. So if one candidate gets 100% of Tennessee, and the other candidate, gets, a fifth of those, then given the fact that nobody else gets the rest of those electoral votes, they would win. I know, that's not a very good explanation, but you'll see how it works. The bigger states carry the biggest hammer in this nail hitting contest, and therefore that's why you hear the battle states, where there's those states that carry just enough weight with them that if you win those and there's a certain number of them, then nobody could beat you, even if they get California and New York and all these other places that are big. So you got to win either a few of the big states and overcome that, or you've got to win those lots of little states and overcome the other one. And it's where you're popular. If you're not popular in California or New York, it's going to be tough, because the big states pretty much rule the roost, according to the way the Electoral College works. So let's look at that, and it is in the Constitution. And if you've ever read any of the Constitution, man, it's like reading a lot of times gobbledygook, in my opinion, because it is written, in like the old English style, we, thous, thou'st, that kind of stuff. A lot of times, not a bunch. So I looked up the history of the Electoral College. And I don't know why some web pages present themselves like this: white background, white text with black around it. I mean, I guess it's my color selection. I've got it set to dark mode, something like that, because I don't like really bright screens blaring out at me. So I guess we'll just read through that. All right, so the founding fathers, the people that wrote the Constitution, established the Electoral College in the Constitution in part as a compromise between the election of the president by a vote in Congress and election of the president by a popular vote of qualified citizens. However, the term Electoral College does not appear in the Constitution. Article 2 of the Constitution and the 12th Amendment refer to electors, but not to the Electoral College. So there's what I'd said before. Since the Electoral College process is part of the original design of the U.S. Constitution, it would be necessary to pass a constitutional amendment to change this system. And we'll see later, look at some of the things, there has been several proposals to do that. Many different proposals to alter the presidential election process have been offered over the years, such as a direct nationwide election by the eligible voters, but none has been passed by Congress and sent to the states for ratification as a constitutional amendment. Under the most common method for amending the Constitution, an amendment must be proposed by 2/3 majority in both houses of Congress and ratified by 3/4 of the state. So, the amendment to the Constitution would have to be accomplished before you could even change or get rid of this Electoral College process. Reference sources indicate that over the past 200 years, more than 700 proposals have been introduced in Congress to reform or eliminate the Electoral College. There have been more proposals for constitutional amendments on changing the Electoral College than any other subject. The American Bar Association has criticized the Electoral College as archaic and ambiguous, and its polling showed 69% of lawyers favored abolishing it in 1987. Well, if the lawyers like it, it's got to be good for all of us, right? I mean, hello, right? In fact, if the lawyers want it gone, then that's probably the best reason to keep it. So, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I would like to see a popular vote. Every person's vote counts. And in a way, if you look at it, it kind of does. Because you, as an individual, had to vote and get the popular vote for that candidate in your state so that that candidate gets your state's electoral college votes. So it's kind of a popularity contest by state, but I don't know. There are ups and downs, and like everything else. If your team wins, it's great. If your team loses, it's bad. And that's just the way everything is. Any new rules, any old rules, if it causes your team to lose, it's stupid. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. If it causes your team to win, it's the best thing. Oh, yeah, that's the smartest thing they ever did. Down at the bottom, down in here where you can't read right now, it says any candidate think the vote should be decided by county. But see, I don't know if there's a way, like I said earlier, the bigger places, the places that have the most population really carry the most weight when it comes to an election. So I don't know if the only way, but one way to get rid of that is, like I said, to do just a popular vote across the United States. So if it doesn't matter what county, state, or, that you live in, neighborhood, or anything that you live in, if it's by popular vote, it's just all thrown together, shuffled around, and you pick out one for this one for that one for this one for that one, two for this one for that one. And that's the way, it works. Fairfax and Alexandria decide the whole college for the entire state. Well, see, that's not fair at all. And that's what I'm saying is Fairfax and Alexandria probably have the most population, and therefore whoever gets the popular vote there, it's so large it just overrides the rest of the state. And, if it were by popular vote, then, you might be able to swing the fact that all your rural areas voted for the same person may have enough cumulative votes to outweigh Fairfax and Alexandria. So, like I said, the big places kind of rule the room when it comes to the Electoral College. And is that good or bad? Like I said, it's gone. It almost, I don't know how you would ever look at it, and it would just be from your standpoint of view would be to look at historically, as how often has the Electoral College served your wishes as opposed to not your wishes, somebody else's. So I don't know. But we're just looking at that because this is the conversation, and I know a lot of people are having right now. Like, what's this stupid Electoral College thing? Why didn't my person win? Or why did their person win? Or, hey, cool, my person won. Or, it works for me because, this instance, last instance, did it work? It's just, I don't know. So you can get down into this a lot, but in my mind, it's simple. You have a president and a vice president. If they're tied together. If the president wins, then he pulls the vice president along with him. Now, in this bottom paragraph, this adds a little question to that. Once, in the presidential election of 1836, the election for vice president was decided in the Senate. Martin Van Buren's running mate, Richard M. Johnson, fell one vote short of a majority in the Electoral College. Vice presidential candidates Francis Granger and Johnson had a runoff in the Senate under the 12th Amendment, where Johnson was elected 33 votes to 16. So, we'll just use ambiguous party names. Martin Van Buren was of the A party, and Richard M. Johnson was of the A party. And they had a runoff. Was Francis Granger part of the A party? Or can you throw a B party candidate in there and say, hey, what would happen if you had an A party president and then the who was it? The Senate voted and gave him a B party vice president. Would that even be possible? See, that's part of it. It really goes into depth that I have not a clue on any of that stuff. Because, like I said, in my mind, president, vice president are tied together. You kind of vote for them as a package. And, sometimes, maybe you don't want the president as much as you really like the vice president candidate. And you hope that the two put together make, the yin and the yang of it all makes a really balanced ticket, a really balanced government or, outlook from that 4 years of president's term. So there's a couple other things in here. Third parties, it's a two-party system. They just make it impossible for any other party. And the main reason that I say it's a two-party system is because it takes, and it shouldn't be this way in my book, it takes millions of dollars to run for president. And that's not just advertisement and button stickers and travel and shaking hands and commercials and all that stuff. I mean, literally, it takes, you know, big money to just get on the ballot. Just to be able to say, I'm an official candidate for president of the United States. Anything else set aside. If you're going to race a car, there's an entrance fee. That doesn't take into account what you've done to the car to make it run faster and be a winner. You've got to have an entrance fee. Or all those things you've done to the car, all the good things, it doesn't make any difference because you're not in the race. You've got to have an entrance fee. And the way they have it situated and set up, you've got to have, you know, probably millions of dollars of entrance fee just to get on. And that's, you know, in each and every state's different. And I didn't realize that. I thought, I can run for president. Let me sign my name to something saying I want to run for president and I qualify. I've got, you know, I'm over the age of 35. I've lived in the country 14 years. You know, I'm, you know, a citizen and have been all my life, so that doesn't count. And those are the two things that you have to have. You have to be a citizen, right? And be over 35. And if you're not a natural born citizen, I think you have to have lived in the country at least 14 years before you can run for president if you're over the age of 35. So, you know, you think that's all you needed to do. That's all that like I said, I'm no constitutional person, authority or anything, but we'll look at the article that talks about where this is, you know, how do you elect a president? So it's been around since the first day. This, you know, this founding fathers established it, and it hasn't been changed since then because it can't be, you know, ratified as an amendment to the Constitution. That tells me there's not enough people that have influence, you know, through Congress and then, you know, to get the ratification done. So, for good or bad, there's people out there that are afraid to monkey with it. You know, it's like the devil you know. You got to deal with the devil you know, because then if you change it, there's a devil out there. You have no idea what's going to happen. No idea what might happen. Let's look at some of these. So just this one right here, this is a little this is Wikipedia and I went a different place. But the 12th Amendment to the United States Constitution provides the procedure for electing the president and vice presidents. Okay. So then I went to Constitution Annotated, and this is kind of a simplified version. The executive power shall be vested in the President of the United States of America. He shall hold this office during the term of 4 years, and together with the Vice President, chosen from the same term, be elected as follows. See, that's why I said reading this stuff is like, why would they say it that way? And together with the Vice President, chosen for the same term, be elected as follows. Seems like a lot. Each state shall appoint in such manner as the legislature thereof may direct a number of electors equal to the whole number of senators and representatives to which the state may be entitled in the Congress. But no senator or representative or person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States shall be appointed as an elector. Profit under the United States. No person holding an office of trust or profit under the United States. It's already mind's blown. lost it. The wheel cogs are falling out. All right. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for 2 persons, of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. And they shall make a list of all the persons voted for and of the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify, and transmit sealed to the seat of the government of the United States, directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the President, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed. And if there be more than one who have such majority and have an equal number of votes, then the House of Representatives shall immediately choose by ballot one of them for president. And if no person have a majority, then from the 5 highest on the list, the same House shall in like manner choose the president. But in choosing the president, the votes shall be taken by states, the representation from each state having 1 vote. A quorum for this purpose shall consist of a member or members from 2/3 of the states, and a majority of all the states shall be necessary to a choice. Ay, ay, ay. That's a mess of words. That's a mess of words. Go back. Let's go back. This is written, and if you I didn't catch a lot, and I've read this 2 or 3 times. I didn't catch a lot, but one of the things I did pick up on is they wrote this thing like there could be multiple candidates for the President of the United States. And yes, that's true in the beginning. Then it's always trickled down and weeded down to just 2. Now, occasionally, and maybe we'll look at this in a minute, there's a 3rd candidate out there. And there tried to be a 3rd candidate this election. But that candidate wasn't able to get on the ticket in all states. See, that's one of the things I was talking about earlier. Just to be able to get on the ticket in a state to be a presidential candidate is a feat in of itself. Just to be able to, for somebody to look at that and go, oh, look, there's A, there's B, oh, there's a C. Just to be able to do that in state, and it's not the same at every state. It's not the same across every state, which is stupid, I think. Because each state could then make it harder or easier for candidates to be, and it doesn't matter. So if you're a 3rd party candidate, you might only be on 37 state ballots. That means you don't have a snowball's chance in purgatory to even get close to the number of votes that you would need to get a few Electoral College votes. There's been 3rd party candidates for president that have gotten 0, goose egg, none of the electoral votes because they just couldn't swing it. They couldn't get enough, bite in any state, to get 1 electoral vote. So this, if you were a constitutional scholar, constitutional law person, your mind has to be like really twisted up into a pretzel to understand some of this stuff. The very first thing that blew my mind out of the water reading this earlier is It's just it's in the first two sentences. The electors, now see, I'm following so far, shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for two persons. Okay, I'm following that. Of whom one at least shall not be an inhabitant of the same state with themselves. What in the world does that mean? What does that mean? I have no idea. And they shall make a list of all the persons voted for. Well, it says they vote by ballot for two persons. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for two persons, of whom one at least shall not be the inhabitant of the same state with themselves, and they shall make a list of all the persons voted for, and of the number of votes for each. Are they voting for two persons because it's the president and vice president? Is that the two persons? I mean, that kind of makes sense. The two persons being the president and the vice president. But one of whom at least shall not be the inhabitant of the same state with themselves. I don't know. And it says, after they make a list of all the persons voted for, well, they're voting for two persons. I don't know. How can you have a list of all of them? And of the number of votes for each, which list they shall sign and certify and transmit sealed to the state government seat of the United States. The president of the Senate, which I think is the president of the Senate not the sitting vice president? Let's look at that. Who is the president of the Senate? Who is the president of the Senate? The president of the Senate is a constitutional role assigned to the vice president of the United States. Okay? That's what I thought. Where did we go? Directed to the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all their certificates, and the votes shall be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the President, if such number be a majority of the whole number of electors appointed. Now you've got to have 270 some electors votes. We'll look at that. Out of the 500 and something that are there. Okay, Garthog says 270. Somewhere I read there's 500 and some potential. I'm clicking through there. So we'll look at that in a second. We'll look at what's going on. There's how things have changed over the years. Electoral tie. How the Electoral College actually works. Alright, so this is the actual Constitution thing. Amendment and all that kind of stuff. A lot of mumbo jumbo going on there. Let's see what else it says. In every case, after the choice of the president, the person having the greatest number of votes of the electors shall be the vice president. But if there should remain two or more who have equal votes, the Senate shall choose from them by ballot the vice president. So there again, it's making it sound like there's potentially more parties than just two. The Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors and the day on which they all shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. No person except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible to the office of President. Neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States. Okay, so not a citizen, just 14 years a resident of the United States. But just because you lived here 14 years doesn't mean that you're a citizen, actually. I mean, let's just say you were born and traveled, your family traveled to Germany, with the Air Force or something, and was stationed over there for 20 years, and you come back at, let's say you come back at 25, and then at 35 you want to run for president. Well, you can't, because you haven't been a legal, even though you're a citizen because you were born here, you haven't been a resident of the United States for 14 years. So you couldn't do that. And that no person except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution. I don't understand that sentence either, but anyway. I was just looking at some of the powers of the president. Make treaties, fill vacancies. So, a bunch of clauses there. We don't want to look at clauses. The only clause we want to look at is sanctity clause. Sanctity clause. All right, let's look at how many electoral votes each state has. So this is as the 2024 election. And you can tell California has 55. New York, that right there, what is all that? New York has 29. I think that's New York. Florida has 29. Tennessee has 11. So the United States Electoral College map showing the number of electors votes by state 2026. So this was in 26. The number of electoral votes each state has is determined by the state's population. For the 2024 presidential election, this number is based on the 2020 census data according to the National Archives and Records. Alabama has 9 votes. Let's see. What was the other one I was looking at about the Electoral College? Oh, this one here. Here's a little chart that I thought was interesting. This is how it's changed over the years the number of representatives and therefore the number of electoral votes have gone up and down since 1910 to 2020, this last census. And this is all based on population. So, as the state's population goes up, they get more and more seats and, in the House of Representatives and that kind of stuff. And so they get more electoral votes. So what's funny, not funny, but interesting, is Alabama in 1910 had 10 votes. And in 20, only 7. So that tells me their population has dwindled. Arizona has gone from 1 in 1920 and went to 9 in 2010. California went from 11 in 1920. And this is kind of amazing. It stayed pretty low. And then in the 70s, see, it really started taking off. 60s, 38, 70, 43, 80, 45, 90, 52, all the way up until today. It has actually more than 52 now because its population is growing. So where is Tennessee? Tennessee, if you notice down here, where is it? Okay, go up a little more. There we go. You can see it better now. Tennessee has almost remained the same since 1910, pretty much. In 1910 it was 10, 2020 9. So Texas has gone up quite a bit. Virginia's been pretty stable. 10, then 9, then 10, 11. Yeah. Wyoming is most constant at 1. Vermont's 1. See, those states are so small with such a low population that they, give 1. Because you got to have a representative, in the Senate and the House. So this is an article by Time. It says 2024, October 28th. Let's see what it says. When you go to vote for president, you do not vote for the president, says William Field, political science professor at Rutgers University. Instead, you are voting for that party's electors, who typically cast a vote in favor of the presidential candidate that wins the most votes in that state. Now, this was something else I looked up that I found interesting. And this kind of alludes to this. Instead, you are voting for that party's electors who typically cast a vote in favor of the presidential candidate that wins the most votes in that state. Typically. There's no federal law and there's no constitutional provision that the elector or electors has to vote the same way the state's popular voted went. So they call them faithless voters or faithless votes or something like that. But if you put together Group A electors and they go and they're from Tennessee, and Tennessee, votes for, political party B's candidate, there's nothing saying that when they get there and they actually cast a vote, that they could cast a vote for the B, the A, the C, technically whoever they wanted to, and not necessarily, as I understand it, as a group. And I don't think that's ever happened. Because if you're the people that are electors that actually do the voting are probably some of the most trusted political people of that party, because you wouldn't want that to happen. You wouldn't want to have a Trojan horse elector who then would go in and vote against your popular vote candidate and swap their vote for the other side. You wouldn't want that to happen. And so you're picking people that are going to be strictly and totally loyal to the candidate they're supposed to be voting for. So in the end, they do vote for them. But to me, that's kind of what they like to call a single point of failure. Kidnap somebody's grandkid and say, if you don't vote for my party, when you go up to the Electoral College voting place, you'll never see him again. What are you going to do? Or, I'm going to give you $50 million to vote the way I want you to vote. Forget about your party affiliates. I'm going to make you rich, and you don't have to worry about them anymore. I don't know. Those are always questions that run through my mind, is like, where's the single point of failure in this whole thing? Where does all those eggs come together in one basket? And I thought about this when they were talking about in the early days, when the votes would be sealed and then they would be carried or transported or sent to, the power of seat of the United States. Well, I mean, you put those things like on a stagecoach. You put them on, a horseback rider. Did you kind of disguise it and put it in a horse and buggy drawn, carriage? So it wouldn't, what security did they have to get those votes? And then who says, they couldn't forge them? Was there a seal placed on each one? It's just really weird that would happen like that. It's a process that dates back centuries and has proven controversial, particularly in instances when a candidate wins the popular vote but loses the Electoral College. Most recently, Trump beat Hillary Clinton in 2016, the 2016 presidential election, despite earning nearly 3 million votes less overall, marking the 5th time in U.S. history that a candidate has become president without winning the most votes. So the 5th time. 63% of Americans say they would prefer it if the winner of the presidential election were decided by popular vote. This is kind of funny. 8 in 10 Democrats and Democratic-leaning independent voters are in favor of abolishing the Electoral College, compared to 46% of the Republicans. So why did they not give a percentage of the Democrats like they did the Republicans? Instead, they said 8 in 10 Democrats and Democratic-leaning independent voters. Is 8 and 10 80%? 8 out of 10, is that not 80%? Despite more than 700 proposals introduced in Congress to reform or get rid of the Electoral College, according to the National Archives, it remains in place today. All right, so how does it work? Under the Electoral College, all 50 states in the District of Columbia are allocated a certain number of electoral votes equal to their 2 senators and their number of representatives. Since representatives are based on the population of a state, that means larger states like California and Texas have the highest number of electoral votes at 54 and 40. 5 states, Alaska, Delaware, North Dakota, South Dakota, Vermont, and Wyoming, have the least electoral votes at 3. The election is essentially decided state by state. The candidate wins the popular vote in a state Typically, they receive all of the state's electoral college votes, even if the race is close. But in Maine and Nebraska, there are split electoral votes, which means 2 electoral votes are given to the state's popular vote winner, and then 1 electoral college vote goes out to the popular vote winner per congressional district. Then 1 electoral vote goes out to the popular vote winner per congressional district. I don't know. In total, there are 538 electors who will cast a vote in favor of a particular presidential candidate. In order to win the majority election, the presidential election, candidates must receive a majority of the proposed 538 or at least 270. So, at least 270. After the votes are cast on the ballots election day, races are eventually called in every state, with the first results starting to come in on election day. States have until December the 10th to finalize any disputes or finish recounts over the results. On December 17th, electors meet to cast their ballots for the president. The copies of the ballots are then sent to the president of the Senate, or vice president, as he's also known, to officially be counted. On January 6th, Congress meets to count the electoral votes and certify victory for the candidate who has received at least 270 votes. If no presidential candidate gets 270 votes, then Congress will elect the president and vice president. Each state's House representatives will cast a ballot in favor of one candidate. In this scenario, a candidate must earn at least 26 votes to win the presidency. The Senate elects the vice president. Each senator casts 1 vote for vice president candidate, and whoever receives 51 votes will be elected. If the House of Representatives does not elect a president by Inauguration Day, January the 20th, then the vice president-elect becomes the interim president until the House comes to a decision. Yeah, All right, the rules of Electoral College are outlined in the 12th Amendment of the Constitution because democracy was a new idea at the time. The nation's founders thought it would be best to have the states elect a president rather than voters directly. I don't know why. This decision was part of the checks and balance systems prevalent throughout the American political system, but it also reflected the Founding Fathers' lack of trust in voters, says John Satcher, a history professor at the University of Central California. They wanted property-owning white men to vote, he says. They wanted to make sure that people were virtuous who voted. They were concerned that if you allow the people too much power, that the people might choose poorly. The logistics of the time also made it more difficult to get people to cast their ballot during a period with reduced and slower transportation, lower literacy rates, and limited opportunities for education. In fact, it was not until the election of 1824 that eligible voters, not just electors, cast a ballot for the next leader of the United States. So, there's that. One thing that there's lots of things I'm not sure of, but one of the things I'm not really sure of is like California, and I just use that because I can remember how many electoral votes they have. There's 55 electoral college votes. Does that mean that they have 55 people and each person casts 1 vote? I've asked it a couple of different ways, and I cannot get it to give me a correct answer or a simplified answer. I don't know how to ask it to see. I mean, that would make sense that, if you had 55 votes, you would have 55 individuals placing that instead of just like, let's just get 5, you know, and they can just all have a certain number. And then, if they vote for somebody else, then maybe it won't be all 55 of them. I don't know. But I guess that's it in kind of a long nutshell. Electoral College is done by, the Constitution of the United States. It doesn't make a lot of sense when you try to read it because mumbo jumbo language. But in order to change it, it takes an amendment change to the Constitution, which is almost impossible, thank heaven, almost impossible to do. So, for good or bad or indifferent, seems like we're here to stay with it. One of the things I would like to look at, or have the powers that be look at, is how underrepresented, small states would fare, with the, change in the Electoral College. What was that? I just don't know. All right, so that's it. Like it or not, this is where we're at. Like it or not, let's get this back up here. Put me over there. Well, I must have scooted up, or my camera must have dropped down. All right, Garthog, thanks for coming by, man. We'll see you in the funny papers. All right, if everybody that's made it this long, I appreciate it. And I hope I shed a little bit of light on Electoral College. I'm more confused. I'm always confused. I'm not any more confused than I was when I started this thing. But I didn't learn a bunch more, except that it's, it's more complicated than my little brain can wrap itself around. All right? So, like, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment, let me know what you think, what you don't think. Yeah, I think of nothing. Just leave me that comment. And I'll see you next time, I guess. I hope. Let's see. Where's my button? I will have to stop. I will have to stop twice. There's that button. Then I'll no longer be alive